Welcome back to Renewable Rides. What if the biggest barrier to sustainability isn't technology or capital? It's language. Today's highlight episode features our conversation with Melanie Larkins, a global sustainability strategist who has led programs at LinkedIn, Accenture, and Capgemini. Melanie has spent her career translating sustainability from a compliance checkbox into a genuine business value driver, speaking the language of CFOs, not just CSOs. In this conversation, she gets into why most sustainability budgets are misallocated, the concept of, quote, uncomfortable transparency, and how she turned 3 funding rejections into a yes by simply changing the deck. If you're trying to move sustainability from the reporting function into the boardroom, this conversation's for you. Too often, I think people see sustainability as a compliance bit, and got to check the box, or we've got to submit our GRESB reports or our whatever reporting body it is. Talk a little bit about the other side of that, which is, okay, compliance, you got to do this, but what are the revenue generating opportunities?
Well, I think what you're working on at VECKTA is a really good example of there's one side, which is the revenue generation, and also the kind of just being more efficient, cutting costs, unlocking trapped value. That's something that I talk about a lot. And sometimes that's revenue, sometimes it's cost, sometimes it's risk. But purely revenue generation depends on the business. I noticed that with quite a lot of services, they're missing out on just using sustainability as a service, something they can do for their clients, whether it be energy generation, whether it be helping them to be more efficient with even decision making. Embedding sustainability into decision making necessarily means that you're using resources as efficiently as you can. It means that you are teaming properly. I find a lot of companies are actually losing value because of the wrong organization. They have a really weird hierarchy of decision making that's really slowing down the process of making decisions, implementing strategy, even developing the right strategy, having the right people to implement it, and having the right people available or able to innovate. That's part of using sustainability as a revenue driver, is innovation. And that is a loss if people are kind of stuck in these traditional models and not thinking outside the box, not encouraging a culture of failure, quite frankly. That's going to stagnate your growth, your innovation, your ability to generate new service lines, new products, improve on existing products. Just explore. And I think that's part of what's needed. But also how capital is being managed in an organization. That is one thing that I am very good at identifying, is having money placed in the right places to do what you need it to do. I see quite often sustainability programs are spending sometimes tens of millions of dollars on carbon offsets. And that is 99% of their sustainability budget is just to purchase offsets, where they could be taking a large portion of that, or even all of it, just even a large percentage, and put that into the operational side, put that into their team, put that into innovation, and they would actually get a return on that instead of just sinking money into something that's not really helping you. It's just something after the fact, or certification, great for your carbon neutral goal or carbon net zero target, but it doesn't really have a functional operational ROI in most cases. I'm curious, what are you seeing in your work at VECKTA with your clients? Where are you seeing the revenue?
I mean, I agree with some of your opening statements around, we use the term trapped value as well. And I think in our world, it's really around operational cost overspend. So we're seeing this kind of new energy era that we've entered into over the last couple of years, where businesses have historically relied solely on the utility grid, and with companies with large real estate portfolios that could be dozens or in some cases hundreds of utilities, and yet those costs continue to creep up. And those that are chasing after sustainability goals get essentially double charged or double hit. They're paying more for their utility energy costs, that is not necessarily sustainable. It has a ton of carbon emissions, and then they're paying to offset that with renewable energy certificates or carbon offsets. And so you've got this kind of double payment happening, whereas you do have the ability to take matters into your own hand, deploy your own energy systems, create that operational efficiencies, and do something in your business that's not just a marketing tactic or a sunk cost that's not actually changing your business, but a band-aid over an issue that you could actually start to address yourself.
And Melanie, we were at one of the leading sustainability conferences last week, and it felt like we'd gone back in time 5 or 10 years. It was almost like the same conversation being had as we're struggling to collect data. We need to be reporting data, and no one was actually talking about how do you turn data into action and impact and better stakeholder engagement, better customer retention, better employee retention, cheaper capital, lower insurance prices, all these amazing things that you can get out of doing the right thing and driving business value. What is the barrier between taking that action and being stuck in that reporting and compliance role based on what you've seen in industry?
A few things I will say. I think partly it's who holds the budget, because that's who ultimately decides how capital is being invested, what's being prioritized. And quite often that's not going to be sustainability, even for companies that, say they're sustainable. They have really amazing reports. They have great PR and marketing. But if you look at their investments, if you look at what they are funding internally, that may or may not be the case. And quite often, the people who are managing or responsible for, accountable for those sustainability initiatives or programs are not the ones who are making the decisions about the budget. Even the CSO is hardly ever reporting directly to the CEO. So usually they're 2 or 3 steps down from that. Sometimes a sustainability director might be 5 or 6 steps down from the CEO. And you might be able to decide for a small amount of funding, but if it's over 100K or 200K, you're going to have to get buy-in from leadership. And it slows things down. It makes it harder. There's more justification needed. And it just makes the process more cumbersome. And quite often, the people that are making those decisions are not educated about sustainability or the why. And so there's a process that has to be done to walk them through, why is this important? Why does this matter? Why do I care beyond having a cool recycling program or something? You know what I mean? It's like you have to kind of meet them at where they are, but bring them on the journey, bring them to where you want to go. I think honestly, that's been my biggest barrier is leadership buy-in, but that's I think also been my greatest success, and why I've had such a long career in this field is because I have found that with many sustainability leaders, there's a desire to speak to the moral compass, to speak to it's the right thing to do, to speak to climate goals, carbon emissions. And that is great. I love that. I believe in that. My heart is there. However, I recognize that most CFOs that's not their motivation. That's not what they get paid to do. That's not why they're there.
Yeah.
It's also not why most businesses are there. So I have to meet people where they are, speak the language that they understand, bring things in terms of ROI or in terms of cost, revenue, in terms of profitability, lower risk, things like that. And really also, I have to do soul searching of, am I actually delivering value to the organization? And if so, how? Reducing carbon emissions is not necessarily delivering value to an organization, especially if I'm doing that mostly through offsets. So what am I actually doing that's creating value that the organization considers valuable, not me as a practitioner or a leader? And I think when you overcome that unlocks so much. It unlocks relationships and engagement and interest and funding and all of those things in a way that I have not seen other approaches be successful in the same way as that. And I've worked in some non-friendly to sustainability environments and still had really a lot of success in getting the things done that I want to get done.
Yeah. think that's tremendous. I'd love to hear if you have any kind of tangible advice for those listeners that are in that kind of world. Maybe they're disconnected from the CEO. I think one of the things that you talk about is the similarities between a CSO or sustainability leader and the CEO because of the need to work across all of the different stakeholders within an organization. What are some pieces of tangible advice that you could give to someone that's in that role in helping them really affect change within their organization and drive that change, and doing so knowing that they're coming at it from a place of wanting to do good, but understanding the system in which they're working within, how they can make that change happen?
I love that question. That's a good one. Not that the others weren't good, but I think this one's particularly fascinating. And maybe a story I think would help is one of my first roles. I was working for a large consulting firm. We were launching a new program for North America that I was leading for sustainability and community engagement. And the team previously had tried, I think, 3 times to get funding for ISO 14001 certification. That would sort of be the actual launch of this program. And it kept getting denied. They couldn't get it funded. And I couldn't figure out why at first. And then I finally saw the deck that they had been using. And I said, oh, no wonder. And I brought it to the CSR lead. And she said, do you really think that this is going to speak to our finance VP or SVP of finance, basically the CFO? And I said, probably not. There was no mention of kind of money and the financial ROI. It was very heavy on emissions, and we can reduce our emissions and our carbon footprint, and it's environmental stewardship, and our clients are kind of doing this, but there was not a clear, this is the ROI, this is the kind of financial benefit or other benefit directly to the company. It was really depending on it's the great thing to do, which again, I love that. Not going to speak to everyone. And once we revamped things, we gave a clear ROI. I think, got 20 minutes into the conversation. He's like, that's all you need? Great, let's do this. Because it was really clear and it was a simple decision because he could understand it. It made sense. Yeah, of course, let's do that. Why wouldn't we do that? So it changed from an absolutely not to why would we not do that? And so I think it's, again, speaking the language of your audience, of your stakeholders, finding who the decision makers are and who the gatekeepers are, networking across the organization. I've been in so many different organizations, and one of the main pieces of feedback I get is that people are amazed by how fast I am able to learn so much about an organization that people could not learn in 10 years there. And it's because I talk to people. I talk to the people that are interns. I talk to the entry level people. I talk to the maintenance staff. I talk to the CEOs or C-suite or whoever I can get a meeting with. I talk to my peers. I talk to people in my role in other industries and companies. And it gives you information, and it builds a network, and it builds relationship. And to me, that's one of the most important things of being in this work is relationship building, and not doing it to get something out of someone, but really just to come with an inquisitive mind, an open mind, to learn, to just engage with people, not because I'm trying to prove my case or get something funded. It's more, I want to learn about this. Let's talk about this. Let's work together. I think this has been the question of the day for the last, 7 or 8 months, maybe the last year. I've seen a lot of shifts away from ESG and sustainability language, but I think that really started a couple of years ago. It's just been accelerated over the last year. And I think it's really language is the biggest pullback I'm seeing, is not necessarily an actual funding. Like my sustainability peers, some might be laid off, but they're not usually unemployed for a year or 2 years unless they want to be. Not saying that it doesn't happen. Absolutely. Some people, yes. But sustainability leaders and practitioners are so specialized in knowledge that we are still very much in demand. So you can find something to do almost always. But I'm seeing a pullback more in the language. I'm seeing walking back on climate commitments, because I think people are worried about taking the risk of standing out, of not meeting those commitments, of many companies just kind of were going with the the flow, going with the group when they made them. And so as a consultant, especially, I was being brought in quite often, especially over, let's say 5 years ago, 4-3, because the CEO made a commitment publicly, had no idea what that would take, had not considered or talked to the sustainability leaders at all. And suddenly they were tasked with meeting this commitment that they had no idea. So they would say, oh yeah, that company went net zero 2050. That's what we're doing. They'd put out a statement and now they're doing it and no one knows how. And so I think some of it is that just a correction that's happening to be more intentional about how we're doing this work. And I think maybe moving away from hopefully just the focus on the marketing and PR side, which it helps, I think, with awareness and public kind of visibility, but the impact side of sustainability. So when we talk about sustainability, what are we actually talking about? Are we talking about just data transparency? Because that's all the regulations are right now, is just disclosure. They don't talk about impact. You can have negative impact year over year increasing and you're still fine when it comes to most regulations. They just want you to disclose your activity and what's material often. And so if we're talking about what I think of sustainability is future proofing, it's preparing for the future. It's making sure that your business is around for the future, that people are around for the future. And that could be resource efficiency. That might mean, the right teaming. It could be reducing your business risk. I talked to a number of companies that are operating heavily dependent on Africa for raw materials, whether that's steel, rare minerals, all of these things, without any African leadership on their executive team, on their board. And so now that geopolitical situation is shifting, where a lot of those countries are starting to become more truly independent, what does that mean for their business? It's a business risk to navigate it that way. Also could impact your resource management, your ability to supply your customers' demand. And it could be about burning out your teams. I'm seeing a lot of burnout with sustainability people and executives in general. I've done quite a bit of research, and I think over half, in some studies, up to 70-something% of executives are experiencing burnout and mental health issues.
Wow.
It's a problem. And so even if your business is profitable, if you're burning out your executives and your teams and people are leaving, that means you have churn, you have turnover, you're losing knowledge, business continuity. If you're depending heavily on consultants and contingent workers, same issue. There's a lot of turnover. And so it goes beyond just environmental kind of carbon waste and water. It's about communities, people, operations, structure, organizational change management. It's so many things that are kind of rolled up into that one term. That's what I've been focusing on more is, okay, we have the term sustainability, but what do I actually identify in the organization where the trapped value is? And for me, that's what I'm focused on when I talk about sustainability, is really 5 main dimensions of that, and assessing those and identifying where the trapped value is and then helping people to unlock that. I think it's more language and getting clear about what are we even talking about the same thing? Are we just talking about data? Are we talking about operations? All of it, supply chain.
We receive a lot of questions from business leaders around the world wanting to learn more about the energy transition, what is possible and where to start. So to help you stay informed and up to date on best practices, opportunities, risks and success stories, we created an industry newsfeed at VECKTA.com/news with all our podcasts, blogs and newsletter. Check it out and connect with Dan, myself and the VECKTA team to learn more. Cheers and have a good one.